You and your brother both directly asked your dad not to marry Camilla.
Yes.
A royal bombshell is shaking Buckingham Palace to its core. Prince Harry has just exposed a long-buried secret involving Queen Camila, one the monarchy never wanted you to hear.
I don't think that we can ever have peace with my family unless the truth is out there.
Behind the palace walls, tensions are rising, loyalties are cracking, and whispers of betrayal are growing louder. Is this just Harry settling old scores? Or is he finally revealing the truth the royals tried to bury? What he said could change everything about the crown's future. In his memoir, Harry presents Camilla as a controversial woman whose relationship with Princess Diana's kids, William and Harry, has been significantly impacted. After her connection with King Charles, who was still married to Diana, came to light, this tension really hit home. Since Camilla was a major factor in their parents' divorce, both princes found it difficult to embrace her, which negatively impacted Harry's early years. Harry discusses his conflicted feelings for Camilla in his book, characterizing her as an outsider caught up in the tumultuous tale of his parents' relationship. This demonstrates just how angry and uneasy he still is over her. These emotions have been crucial to his development and personal journey. Harry experienced a lot as a child, including the abrupt death of his mother and the terrible dissolution of his parents' marriage. He has frequently claimed that these events made him feel deceived and wounded, particularly in light of the affair that started it all. These experiences influenced his innermost feelings and how he views the world. Harry discusses the profound impact these incidents had on his mental health in both his work and interviews. He was plagued by a persistent sense of betrayal and loss that affected not only his emotions, but also his interpersonal interactions. He has been very open about how difficult it has been to bear this agony. Harry has been making an effort lately to confront and process these difficult memories. Thinking back on his childhood experiences and realizing how they influenced him has put him on the road to recovery. It's all a part of his quest for emotional equilibrium and serenity. Harry's frustration and rage have only increased over time, particularly as a result of the media's portrayal of Camilla. He frequently gets into arguments with the media because he thinks they have done a lot to paint a negative picture of Camilla, his mother, and Princess Diana. Harry believes that his mother's life was made much more difficult by the harsh media criticism and constant monitoring. As a result, he has never had a good relationship with the media. He feels compelled to preserve the truth and uphold his mother's legacy because he finds it difficult to accept the way his family's history has been presented. Harry opens out about these difficult times in his book, allowing readers to see the feelings that influenced his decisions. It enables others to comprehend his influences and the reasons for his current behavior. Regarding Queen Camilla, Harry's relationship with her remains somewhat complex. Her background and its effects on his family are difficult to overcome, despite her best efforts to improve their connection. Additionally, Harry expresses his concern that Camilla has manipulated the media to enhance her personal reputation, even at the expense of harming his and William's reputations. He believes she made herself appear good by using her connections in the media, but in the process, she disclosed personal information about him and his brother. Harry felt manipulated and deceived by that. Following the royal family's custom of remaining quiet when dealing with personal problems, Camilla initially remained silent in response to Harry's remarks. It is customary to avoid discussing personal matters in public. She did, however, eventually come out and give her version of events. At first, some viewed her quiet as a cunning strategy to prevent things from getting worse. Others saw it as a cunning attempt to subtly manipulate the story and enhance her reputation. Her prolonged silence, however, might have caused Harry even more pain because it appeared as though she had cemented her position in the royal family by excluding him and William. Prince Harry's relationship with Queen Camilla is obviously complicated by his personal history, public perception, and familial relationships. Harry's memories of his mother, Princess Diana, have a significant influence on how he perceives Camilla. As a result, Camilla frequently appears to be the one who upset the royal family, which is always in the news. The royal family's handling of Harry and Camilla's complex relationship is greatly influenced by the combination of their private emotions and the public eye. It truly demonstrates how difficult it is to manage personal suffering when everyone is observing your every action. The key query at this point is how Camilla will react to Harry's upcoming memoir. Will she criticize him in return, or will she remain silent and ignore him completely? This narrative is surely far from over, so stay tuned. Prince Harry once viewed the royal family as his rock, a place that offered him a sense of direction, acceptance, and home. However, that comfort began to wane as the years passed. What had been cozy and secure became formal and frigid. Once seeming like a useful framework, the palace laws started to feel like shackles preventing him from moving forward. Harry's disillusionment with the organization known as the Firm came gradually rather than all at once. Little things like an act of rudeness here, a contemptuous comment there built up. Those minor aches turned into a severe one. When Meghan entered his life, it was the true tipping point. It rocked Harry to his core to see her enter a world of unrelenting scrutiny and implicit expectations. Meghan was treated coldly, despite her best efforts to maintain her poise and adhere to royal customs. Harry anticipated his family, the same family that had supported him in the past, to help when she courageously admitted she was having difficulties and begged for assistance. However, he encountered quiet instead. He was cruelly reminded by that emotional distance of how his mother, Princess Diana, used to feel isolated, ignored, and misinterpreted. Harry was genuinely troubled by Meghan's troubles, which were similar to Diana's. Harry saw little genuine concern beneath the well-preserved royal facade, despite meetings and public comments. The family seemed to be more concerned with maintaining their reputation than with Meghan's welfare. Furthermore, the severity of the media simply made matters worse. The double standards were obvious, and Harry was unable to ignore how much of the criticism appeared to be related to Meghan's color. He used to think that the family would defend the woman he loved, but he was heartbroken to see their lack of concern. Although Harry never expected his family to be flawless, he did anticipate loyalty, particularly after Meghan's attack. Harry was therefore taken aback when the palace remained silent at her most trying moments. He deduced from their quiet that it was neglect rather than neutrality. Harry eventually developed a fresh perspective on the monarchy. What he had formerly seen as a mark of pride and tradition now appeared more like a place that valued maintaining its own reputation over preserving its own. Kindness seemed less important than tradition. Harry has always had a difficult position in the royal family, which seems to exacerbate his mental scars over time. Harry frequently felt marginalized, present but never really heard, while his brother William was rapidly gaining the throne. He was near enough to make an impression in public as the spare, but he was rarely allowed the freedom to express his opinions or follow his hobbies. He felt like an extra in his own life narrative because he was always being ignored. Harry started looking for ways to communicate his feelings as they accumulated without any outlet. In his biography Spare, he finally revealed all after speaking out in interviews and films. For Harry, these actions were a step toward recovering a voice that had long been disregarded, but to others, they might have appeared to be attention-seeking. He described years of emotional suffering, including being marginalized, witnessing Meghan face constant media criticism, and surviving in a system that frequently put protocol ahead of humanity. Beneath his well-preserved public persona of years, there was a slowly breaking person. He had significant scars, many of which were connected to the death of Princess Diana, his mother. He kept thinking about her narrative. Diana had joined the royal family with hope, love, and light, but she had to deal with constant criticism from the organization she married into. True care only emerged after her death, since her emotional issues were greeted with indifference. As a child, Harry witnessed it all, and he never forgot how vulnerable she was. The fact that Camilla, who was formerly thought to be the reason Diana was unhappy, was progressively tolerated and then appreciated made it much more difficult. Harry thought that this change in public perception had subtly eliminated Diana's suffering in favor of a story that was more acceptable to the public and her family. It wasn't Harry's intention to leave the family on his own terms. He eventually felt excluded by a system that was unable to provide him with assistance and understanding when he most needed it. All he truly desired was empathy, a readiness to view him as a human as well as a royal. His grief gave way to resolve when that didn't materialize. A son who is still grieving for his mother, a husband who is adamant about protecting his wife, and a guy who is attempting to come to terms with his identity as a royal who has never quite fit the mold, are all hidden beneath the surface of every headline, interview, and book extract. Internal conflicts within the family had been brewing for years, especially in relation to the delicate past with Camilla. However, the decision by Harry and Meghan to formally resign from their royal responsibilities set off a chain of shock that extended well beyond the palace's boundaries. Since then, the emotional toll of royal life has been illuminated by their public remarks, particularly Harry's intensely private disclosures. He describes it as a society where strict standards, emotional detachment, and the need to always look flawless are the norm. The scrutiny around Queen Camilla has only increased as a result of these discoveries. When a high-ranking royal like Harry starts publicly challenging her job, it lends more credence to the alleged private worries of others, such as Princess Anne. Previously silent dissatisfaction is increasingly being perceived as a component of a broader trend. The royal family is making a concerted effort to preserve its unity in the face of mounting internal and external pressure. However, the cracks are becoming visible, and rumors are becoming more widespread. Is Camilla's status as queen consort really in jeopardy? Removing someone from that position would be practically unheard of, but the current state of affairs is anything but typical. Given that important individuals like Anne and perhaps even Catherine are secretly uncomfortable with Camilla's role, the palace might have to reconsider its strategy in order to maintain stability. King Charles is at the center of it all and is currently confronted with the enormous task of leading the monarchy through a storm that is both tumultuous and intensely personal. How the crown is perceived for years to come will probably depend on his capacity to mend the division among family members and manage the growing public scrutiny. The divides may worsen into a catastrophe that no royal title or tradition can handle if reconciliation is not achieved quickly. The British monarchy has been negotiating one of its most precarious and vulnerable eras in contemporary history ever since Queen Elizabeth II's death. Her passing signaled not only the end of a historic reign but also the beginning of a new and more closely watched royal period, in which the public and media scrutinize every action, statement, and choice. The royal family used to be automatically respected and admired, but that is no longer the case. They are now constantly under pressure to demonstrate their unity, relevance, and capacity for strong, stable leadership. The monarchy's internal conflicts are getting harder to ignore, nevertheless, despite its best attempts to preserve that classic, refined facade of poise and authority. The situation behind the palace gates is anything but peaceful. Princess Anne and Queen Camilla's apparent conflict is still getting worse. Many royal relationships are still emotionally and powerfully impacted by Princess Diana's legacy. And an already raging fire has been fueled even more by the ongoing drama involving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. King Charles is now facing the extremely challenging task of attempting to keep his family together while governing a monarchy that no longer travels the world unchallenged as a result of all of this. It remains to be seen if he can successfully rescue his family from the precipice. Furthermore, the royal institution might be forced to change in ways no one anticipated if the turmoil persists. There are currently more questions than definitive answers around the royal household. The idea that Camilla would be asked to resign as queen consort is gaining traction. Many are speculating about whether the general public and even higher-ranking royals will start publicly supporting Anne. The main question is whether the harm that is currently occurring inside palace walls can ever be fully repaired. But one thing is clear: whatever storm is building inside Buckingham Palace hasn't yet passed. It's only getting worse, if anything. One theme emerges from the lengthy history of the monarchy. External threats are rarely the source of its most significant problems. Rather, internal fissures are often more destructive. Tradition, responsibility, and public poise have been the cornerstones of the British crown for generations. The well-maintained appearances, the well-rehearsed greetings, the graceful speeches, the calm looks in the face of drama have allowed it to endure. These instances contributed to maintaining the monarchy's impeccable reputation. That previously immaculate image is now under pressure, and the stress that is growing within the palace may be what finally causes it to show. Princess Anne and Queen Camilla, two remarkably different but equally significant women, are at the core of that developing uneasiness. For a long time, Anne has been regarded as a reliable person. Through innumerable family difficulties, she has been dependable and faithful, always prioritizing her sense of duty over her own interests. She stands for the traditional royal guard, quiet, loyal, and hardworking. On the other hand, Camilla's presence is more contentious. According to others, she deftly won King Charles's love while upsetting the strong emotional bond that the people once shared with Princess Diana. The subtle uneasiness that has plagued Camilla for years is coming to the surface in full force now that Charles is the heir. People are also starting to pick sides. Despite all of this family strife, Prince Harry continues to be a strong and tenacious voice of opposition. As someone who deviates from the script and speaks openly about the suffering, pressure, and politics of being born into royalty, he has assumed the role of royal truth-teller. He has openly discussed his uncomfortable relationship with the media, the strict demands of royal life, and the emotional wounds caused by the death of his mother. Harry, however, has now made an even more shocking disclosure that could rock the monarchy to its core. Harry reveals a shocking revelation about King Charles that was previously kept out of the public eye in a fresh and surprising addition to his already widely reported narrative. According to him, his father battled a personal health condition for years that affected his memory, sapped his vitality, and rendered him emotionally distant. In retrospect, Harry claims he recalls odd conduct, extended periods of quiet and erratic emotions. When he was younger, he assumed it was simply the strain of being a prince. But as he became older, he realized that something more significant was happening. Harry claims that family members weren't the only ones with this knowledge. He says the problem was fully known to the palace personnel, medics, and senior advisors. Quiet adjustments were done in the background. Speeches were frequently pre-recorded to reduce the possibility of any public gaffes, and royal engagements were discreetly canceled or cut short. The public, however, stayed in the dark while the inner circle adapted. For Harry, honesty was always the true problem, not simply health. According to him, the palace lost a chance to be honest, to portray the king as weak and human, and possibly to establish a stronger bond with the general public. He claims that the royal family preferred concealment over openness, and that their silence only made matters worse. Everyone was compelled to participate, including Harry. He talks of pretending to be happy for the cameras, but in private he was feeling lost, depressed, and excluded. Harry also makes mention to private correspondence from royal aides in the autobiographical update. One message said that bad weather was the reason for the cancellation of a royal trip, which he claims was a front for a more serious problem involving his father's health. The use of pre-recorded addresses to avoid live appearances when the king wasn't feeling well was alluded to in another letter. Harry says it was all done to preserve the royal image. However, it just made the family's emotional estrangement from one another worse rather than stronger. Harry claims that he made numerous attempts to speak with his father face-to-face in order to comprehend the situation and provide support. But there was quiet in response to those attempts. "Shut him out," he says of King Charles. Meaningful conversations never took place, and questions remained unresolved. The quiet between them got more intense with time, and Harry's sense of alienation only grew stronger. He felt removed from the inner ring of his own family, not merely pushed aside. Public attention surged as these novel allegations appeared in the media. Everyone's gaze was fixed on Buckingham Palace. People were looking for answers. What would the royal family say in response to such a terrible and personal charge? However, the palace adhered to its ancient maxim, never explain, never complain, in a typical royal way. They made no attempt at a public response, issued no statement, or made a denial. More rumors were raised by that quiet. Social media was ablaze with online arguments. Some backed Harry, stating that his decision to speak out was brave and that his sorrow was real. Others spoke up for King Charles, claiming that even a king or queen has the right to privacy regarding their own health. Crowds gathered outside the palace in the meantime. To see how the palace would respond to this occasion, reporters, paparazzi, and interested bystanders hoped for a single comment. Nothing arrived, though. The royal family decided to keep quiet. But in the modern world, keeping quiet isn't always a good idea. It may even appear to be guilt. Once respected for its enigmatic and restrained persona, the monarchy now runs the risk of coming across as distant and aloof. Additionally, as public interest only grows, pressure is building on the royals to alter their strategy or face the possibility of their painstakingly created legacy slipping farther out of their control. King Charles was caught in an impossible situation. As a representation of power and continuity to the world, he had to, on the one hand, exhibit the unflinching confidence and unyielding leadership that are required of a monarch. Behind the glittering walls of the palace, on the other hand, he was facing a bitterly divided family that was burdened by rumors and whispered questions about his personal health. Pressure mounted daily, not only to keep the monarchy intact, but also to do so in the face of a population that was becoming increasingly cynical and restless. The inquiries started to pierce the institution's core and were no longer limited to the royal family's personal hardships. Could a centuries-old monarchy based on custom and procedure endure in a time when people are calling for more openness, honesty, and transparency? What had previously been a bright light of harmony and stability was beginning to take on the appearance of a castle of stillness, complete with shut doors and unsolved questions. The suspicion was further fueled by the royal family's unwavering silence. Did King Charles actually have a major health problem? Perhaps Harry had overstated or inflated what he said? Most significantly, why was no one coming forward to clarify the circulating rumors? The mystery grew with each day that passed without a formal announcement. The tension inside Buckingham Palace became almost tangible as the public's curiosity increased, and it seemed as though the royals themselves were being surrounded by walls. Emotions were running high in the palace. According to reports, Prince William, the obedient heir apparent and someone frequently regarded as the monarchy's future, was fuming. William felt deeply betrayed by Harry's choice to expose their family's intimate affairs to the public. After years of separation, the brothers' already shaky and fragile bond now appeared to be dangling by the thinnest of threads. On the outside, however, William kept up his calm public image while doing his royal responsibilities with ease. But beneath that serene exterior, he was under a lot of stress from the family's problems. The royal family was embroiled in an emotional struggle with other members. Given the mutual tragedy both brothers experienced following their mother's untimely death, some people felt a great deal of sympathy for Harry. They sensed the sorrow that had motivated Harry and realized that his scars had never completely healed. Even those with empathy, however, continued to hold on to the idea that some family issues should only be discussed behind closed doors. Harry had crossed a boundary that many in the palace believed was unbreakable by violating the royal vow of silence and making private issues so publicly known. A persistent, unsaid question pervaded everything. What precisely was Harry attempting to accomplish? Was this a planned act of retaliation against a family and organization that he believed had harmed him? Or was it something far deeper and more complicated? A last-ditch effort to be heard, to find healing, or to bring about change? The world paid close attention when Harry started to speak honestly, whether in his frank interviews, documentaries, or his eye-opening biography. There was a wide range of opinions. His candor was perceived by some as a spectacular defiance of royal protocol, a way of hitting out. Others viewed it as a long-overdue face-to-face with terrible reality, a courageous and essential act of truth-telling. Harry had complex and difficult-to-define motivations. To some, he seemed to be making up for past wrongs. To others, he seemed sincere in his desire to mend the divisions within his family and the organization. There was no denying that he had not made the decision to speak out lightly. It was the result of years of personal anguish, marginalization, and quiet. Harry's suffering had a long history. He had seen Princess Diana, his mother, suffer from constant media attention and personal suffering while the royal family was noticeably silent. He was forever changed by that picture of Diana's agony, tragic and lonely. Harry felt whole when Meghan Markle entered his life and brought him love and support. Joy, however, was fleeting. The same unrelenting tabloids soon began to harass Meghan, and the palace atmosphere became chilly and alienating for her as well. This felt to Harry like the worst kind of reenactment of history. He asked for assistance, looking for support from the institution and family he had previously trusted. Once more, though, his calls appeared to be ignored. When the story that was developing around Meghan reflected the traumatic experience he had had with his mother, He reached a breaking point and realized he could no longer remain silent because he felt abandoned and desperate. Harry's decision to go public has generated a wide range of opinions. Some others think that his disclosures were an act of revenge, a method to get even with a family and organization that they felt had let him down. Others interpret his acts as an attempt to find justice and the truth. No matter how awkward it may be for the monarchy, Harry is utilizing his position to openly share his experience with others who are watching. Queen Camilla was caught in the middle of all this turmoil. Harry's use of the depressing fairy tale metaphor, wicked stepmother, to describe her, was one of the most painful parts of his biography. Camilla had spent decades transforming her public persona, gradually assuming her position, negotiating royal etiquette, and gaining some respect. It must have been a very terrible blow to be so severely portrayed as a villain in Harry's story. This depiction demonstrated how the effects of Harry's disclosures went well beyond his personal connections, adding still another level of complexity and tension to the already complicated and contentious dynamics inside the royal family. In addition to reopening old emotions, calling her an evil stepmother brought Princess Diana's complex legacy back to life. The public have had a hard time accepting Camilla's position in the royal family for years. She appeared to be settling in when Harry's remarks sparked a new round of uproar. It was really public, raw, and personal. Although Camilla remained silent, the hush surrounding her response further amplified its impact. The royal family is currently experiencing a widening rift. The public notices the flaws, and the monarchy's well-preserved image is no longer impervious to criticism. The destiny of the throne has never felt more precarious, with a queen consort caught in the crossfire, a heartbroken son, and a strained fraternity. Given the delicate status of the royal family, Harry's scathing remarks against Queen Camilla may have seemed extremely personal, but Camilla chose not to react. She didn't publicly show her hurt or fury. Rather, she remained committed to her responsibilities, continuing to meet with the public, promote charitable causes, and attend official functions. Her poise and quiet power became a statement in and of itself. No matter how intimate the emotional strikes, she would not be shaken. Camilla's reaction to Harry's memoir revealed a deep commitment to the monarchy. Instead of retreating or participating in the drama, she exhibited fortitude and poise, living up to the demands of her royal position. Her ability to remain composed under pressure showed the public how strong it is to remain in the spotlight without losing it, particularly when the criticism is coming from inside the family. Charles III, New King, New Court by Robert Hardman explores these intricate connections in great detail, emphasizing Camilla's capacity to remain composed in the face of chaos. Her consistency was commended in a mirror piece, which also pointed out that she prefers to communicate with her deeds rather than words. Camilla uses her refusal to display emotion in public as a means of asserting her authority. It's not loud or theatrical, but calm and forceful. Even still, those who know her well are aware of the agony. In an interview with the Sunday Times, Camilla's close friend and godmother, Lady Lansdowne, also called Lady Lone, provided insight into Camilla's own response. She disclosed that Camilla was truly saddened by Harry's remarks. Even so, Lady Lansdowne praised Camilla for managing everything with a realistic, grounded approach, choosing to keep things straightforward, serene, and devoid of needless drama. Camilla's emotional intelligence is demonstrated by her ability to balance her personal feelings with her responsibilities to the public. She has evolved into a more contemporary representation of royalty, someone who can handle criticism and controversy while maintaining her dignity. Harry even lowered his voice a bit when he promoted Spare on Good Morning America. He accepted that Camilla had been in a difficult situation during his parents' marriage, and that she had experienced significant hardships. Even though he had doubts about her strategies, he acknowledged the work she did to change her public persona. The complexity of royal life, filled with difficult choices, complex emotions, and personal sacrifices, was highlighted by that moment of introspection. Camilla's measured, silent, and calm reaction to Spare showed her strength in a new way. Her composed demeanor conveyed a message of its own in a royal family that is notorious for its quietness. That sometimes the best answer is no answer at all. However, there are other royal ties that have been strained besides her relationship with Harry. Harry's distance from the rest of the family, particularly his brother and father, has only grown. King Charles is thought to have been gravely offended by his remarks regarding Camilla. Harry's representation of the royal family was incredibly unfavorable, according to royal analyst Richard Fitzwilliams, and it has probably widened the gap between him and Prince William, possibly irreparably. Harry's criticism of Camilla apparently infuriated King Charles behind the scenes. One significant effect of that rage? The choice to kick Harry and Meghan out of their UK residence, Frogmore Cottage. The pair now has a reputation for being totally untrustworthy, Fitzwilliam said. The royal family is not only injured but also severely divided as a result of the shattered trust and unresolved emotions. In addition to the strain that was already building, there had been rumors that even Queen Elizabeth was not convinced that Harry would return to the royal life, particularly once Spare came out. Despite her constant grace in public, insiders claim she wasn't happy with some of Harry's revelations, particularly subtly critical remarks directed at her. She also takes a far more hard stand when it comes to Camilla. She has stated unequivocally that she does not wish to be involved with Harry's possible comeback, not even for a brief stay. Someone close to the royal circle claims that Camilla has shut Harry out of her life. She won't talk to him, forgive him, or show him any love. According to reports, she views him as a dramatist, someone who causes difficulties and only tells half the truth. She believes that Harry's activities have caused needless anxiety and uncertainty in their lives. She is particularly concerned about King Charles's health, since she thinks that becoming embroiled in Harry's drama would worsen his already precarious state. Camilla has taken up the role of protector while King Charles is receiving treatment for cancer. She's advising him to take things slow, concentrate on getting better, and stay away from anything that could make him feel more stressed, like talking to Harry. She is reportedly making every effort to protect the king from mental stress, particularly in light of the suffering his youngest son has caused. Charles's instinct as a father hasn't changed, though. According to insiders, he continues to hope for peace. His desire to put things right, not only for himself but also for the royal family's future, appears to have grown stronger as a result of his illness. If only in spirit, he is committed to reunite his sons. It won't be simple, though. Not only did Harry target Camilla in Spare, but he also portrayed Prince William as agitated and irritable. Things have gotten worse due to the impact from that representation. Royal observers claim that Charles is conflicted. On the one hand, he is amenable to recovery. However, he is aware that letting Harry rejoin the group, particularly given his royal responsibilities, could backfire. William, on the other hand, is reportedly adamantly opposed to Harry making a formal comeback. Grant Harold, a former royal butler, thinks that unless Harry accepts responsibility for the suffering he has caused, the gap between the brothers will not close. He claims that a reconciliation is unlikely until there is sincere regret and an open acknowledgement that certain aspects of Spare went too far. Will Harry ever be able to find true closure? The rift developed gradually as a result of unpleasant decisions, damaged sentiments, and betrayed trust, rather than beginning with a single argument or remark. However, families still manage to surprise us despite all the stress. Even the most severe scars can begin to mend with time, introspection, and a little kindness. Meghan plays a significant part in all of this as well. She offers Harry a fresh form of support as his wife and the mother of his kids, a life outside the gates of the palace. Meghan might be essential to fostering reconciliation, even though some royals may still have reservations about her. She might gradually win over people who formerly doubted her if she handles things with sensitivity and patience. Little deeds of kindness, peaceful discussions, and quality time with family could help melt the cold. William is still a major character in this tale. There previously was an unbreakable link between him and Harry. They endured the hardships of royal life together, grew up next to one another, and suffered the terrible loss of their mother. That strong brotherly bond has simply been buried beneath years of conflict. It hasn't entirely vanished. William might feel more obligated to mend that relationship when he ultimately ascends to the throne. Something as simple as a private discussion, a vulnerable moment, or even a shared memory could serve as the catalyst. And Queen Elizabeth's legacy endures throughout it all. Strong, elegant, and devoted to maintaining the royal family's unity, she was their heart. Her remembrance might serve as a silent manual for those who are left behind. The family may find the courage to reunite in her honor if they keep in mind her example. Whether they like it or not, royal events like birthdays, anniversaries, and public celebrations will continue to unite the family in the future. And perhaps, just possibly, a gentle remark, a fleeting smile, or a shared giggle could be the catalyst that ignites the healing process. Because family ties, no matter how far they appear, have a way of coming together again, especially when love lies beneath the hurt. Anyone looking for a speedy resolution may be let down, as all eyes are on the royal family, waiting for even the smallest indications of togetherness. It takes more than a photo op or a courteous wave at a royal function to truly heal. It must originate from the heart and be gradually developed via sincere effort, forgiveness, and trust. Prince Harry's future in the royal family is still up in the air. Across the Atlantic, he has discovered a new style of life that is characterized by love, personal development, and an emphasis on mental health. Although he appears to be at peace with this new chapter, remnants of his regal past continue to haunt him. It's unknown if he will ever return to royal duties. Any route back can be a modest one, such as going to family events, remotely supporting causes, or carefully mending broken connections, rather than a spectacular one. These modest actions can eventually pave the way for a future reunion. Royal conflicts, however, are not new. Charles and Diana's well-publicized divorce in 1996 garnered international attention. Camilla had just completed her own divorce, and many believe Queen Elizabeth was a silent but significant factor in promoting the split. There was a lot of public pressure, and the pair was the subject of an incredible media frenzy. Diana secured a substantial payout and a residence at Kensington Palace by taking care to safeguard her position. Although she lost her HRH status and her official chance to become queen, she retained her title as Princess of Wales, a loss she probably had come to terms with by that time. In the meantime, after years of waiting, Charles was at last able to pursue a more public connection with Camilla. It was difficult to get her into the royal spotlight, though. Camilla had long been known as the other woman at the time, so it took cautious measures to change her perception. However, this was only one part of a much longer and more private royal story. The royal family frequently gives off the impression of being well-groomed, polite, and in unison. However, beneath the opulence of Buckingham Palace lie subtly contested power struggles, shifting allegiances, and silent conflicts. These problems were concealed behind the palace gates for many centuries. However, it's becoming more difficult to keep royal secrets secret in the modern world due to constant media coverage and public scrutiny. The conflict between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla is among the most recent. According to reports, what started off as small disagreements has turned into a full-fledged power war. Their argument has caused a lot of stress for the family and may have long-term consequences for the monarchy as a whole. The royal family has already experienced controversy and internal strife. Because he married a divorced woman, King Edward VIII almost lost his reign. In order to divorce his wife, King Henry VIII famously altered the entire religious code of the nation. Queen Elizabeth I used cunning and strategy to handle ongoing challenges to her authority. The people were only informed about what they were permitted to know back then. These days, every look, comment, and royal mutter becomes newsworthy. The royal family is currently balancing seclusion with public expectations and tradition with transparency. Additionally, maintaining unity is becoming more difficult than ever as old scars and fresh conflicts come to the surface. Long revered for her modest devotion and no-nonsense demeanor, Princess Anne is usually regarded as one of the most esteemed members of the royal family. Although she doesn't seek attention, her commitment and traditional values have made her a dependable presence. That's why so many people were taken aback by her recent opposition to Queen Camilla. Sources claim that Anne has opposed Camilla being called queen, and has even advised those in the inner circle not to use the title. Her justification is very personal. According to reports, Anne still believes that Camilla's previous association with Charles, particularly during his marriage to Diana, damaged the monarchy's reputation for a long time. How the monarchy moves forward while still bearing the burden of its past is a far larger question that is at the center of this dispute. Finding harmony may need more than just following royal procedure, as there are a lot of voices involved, ranging from long-serving royals to recent arrivals like Meghan and Harry. It might call for forgiveness, which is the one quality that is difficult to come by in a world like this. Camilla's journey to the throne has not been easy. Her reputation as the person who stood between Prince Charles and Princess Diana persisted for a long time, even after she formally became a member of the royal family. Even though she assumed her position with poise and dignity, rumors of dislike have long circulated inside the palace. The strain has only grown since Charles took the throne. Old differences still exist, as seen by Princess Anne's outspoken rejection of Camilla's title as Queen. Anne might not be standing by herself either. According to rumors, Princess Catherine, commonly known as Kate Middleton, may have silent concerns about Camilla's position within the monarchy. Insiders say Kate privately shares Anne's concerns, despite her outward reputation for composure and diplomacy. The family has subtly split into opposing groups as a result of this subtle conflict. As devoted, industrious, and guardians of the monarchy's future, Anne and Kate are regarded as the cornerstones of the royal family. However, their discomfort with Camilla's stance betrays a concerning subtext. What might happen to the stability of the monarchy in the future if the Queen Consort is unable to heal the division within the family? Harry comes after that. Will he ever be able to reconcile with the family that influenced and wounded him? Or will he always be at a distance due to the wounds caused by conflict, criticism, and estrangement? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Please remember to like and subscribe if you thought this video was enlightening. You won't want to miss any more royal secrets, so watch the other videos on your screen before you leave.